Hey everyone, I'm Nuzlocke Joe, and today we're going to find out if I have the willpower to suffer through and complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Sapphire using only pink shinies. Originally, I did try to do this run in Alpha Sapphire because the base shiny rates are higher, but my very legitimate and not at all fake 3DS simply couldn't handle it without lagging. So I went to Beta Sapphire instead, with one small change. I spent hours becoming an expert hacker so I could change the shiny rate to match that of a shiny charmed Alpha Sapphire. In spite of that, the run still takes plenty of time. If you want to know how many in-game hours it takes, stick around to the end and you'll find out. The start of the game isn't that important, so let's just get shiny hunting. I lied to myself by saying that I don't really care which shiny starter I get. So I use save states to make everything go quite a bit faster and just keep checking every starter. After only a few hundred encounters, I get my first shiny Poochyena. Well, that's just rude. About 400 encounters later, I hit the jackpot with a shiny Trico, who kills the Pooch in just a few hits. Wait a second, I can hear you saying. I thought this was a pink shiny run. And it is, because when I get back to Birch's lab and I get to name this Trico, my brain realizes something that my heart knew all along. I want a lil pink mudkip, not a chick or even a lizard thing. So I do something reckless and restart my shiny hunting. After about 2,000 more encounters, I'm not kidding, this was horrible, I finally find the pink boy I've been looking for. Well, that's several hours of my life I'm never getting back, so you, random YouTuber, better appreciate all of this work I'm doing. As you can clearly see, this mudkip is fabulous, so let's just call him that. Then I find May, who says that fabulous was just a gift. Excuse me, I spent hours resetting my game to get this guy. I earned the right to use this beautiful pink boy. And this is a really simple fight. I did spend some time leveling up beforehand because I didn't want to die to a very unlucky crit or something, but it worked out okay. I returned to Birch's lab where I get a Pokedex and some Pokeballs. It's time to shiny hunt. Yay. On Route 101, I could waste a few hours looking for a shiny Wurmple because he is pink, but like many cheerleaders, Wurmple peaks in high school, and it's only downhill from there. The same is true for Slackoth, actually. So I have two encounters that I could catch and use for a little while, but they couldn't evolve, so I don't really feel like wasting my time with either of them. I get through the Petalburg Woods with no issues, and very quickly go to fight Roxanne. Now there is one additional encounter I could have gotten before this fight, but I didn't think it was necessary, because the Geodude, for example, falls in a single water gun. The Nosepass does survive, and hits me a few times with Rock Tomb. She also gets healed twice, which isn't fair, and brings me back down to orange after healing with a berry, but then finally does die. I should have planned it so I level up against the Geodude to get a little bit of extra health, but that's okay. Even though it was more difficult than I had anticipated, I still won. Her rocks can't swim, and Fabulous evolves for doing such a great job. Unlike some Pokemon, Fabulous actually stays pink the entire time, which is just fantastic. The first badge is down. Now, before I can actually get my second shiny, I'm accosted by this guy who needs help getting his goods back. Who talks like that? Do you go to the store to get your Walmart goods? No, you don't, because that's weird. Anyway, out of the goodness of my heart, I not only save Pico the Wingull, but I also get this guy's goods back. And my reward is to run 2 more errands in 2 separate cities. That almost seems like more work, which is not a reward. To get my second encounter, I go back to Wishmere Tunnel, which is what I call it, and after only 100 encounters or so, I find the beautiful pink girl that I'm looking for. I name her Fantastic. That was actually relatively painless. I jump on a boat to Dewford Town, but as I'm beginning my preparations for the gym leader fight, and doing some basic calculations, I come to the realization that my team, as fabulous and fantastic as it may be, doesn't really stand a chance. I mean, one of them is a normal type after all. So, I jump right back on that boat. Remember when I said I wouldn't waste time with a Wurmple? Turns out, I lied. Sorry guys. Here, I need a sacrifice for this gym, and Wishmere is just too... what's that word? Oh yeah, fantastic. I finally find a shiny Zigzagoon. Man, get out of here. I don't want this orange peel. A few more hours, and I find the pink worm. She looks kinda purple, but let's just say she's a dark pink. I name her Beautiful, in honor of the evolution she will never achieve. Now it's back to Dewford to face Brawly. I lead with Beautiful and just deal as much damage as I possibly can with Tackle. I would like to use Poison Sting here, but I can't risk activating Guts, so that's out of the question. And before long, Beautiful fulfills her one purpose in life: to die, so that my real Pokemon have a slightly better chance to live. Fabulous comes out, and the Machop falls in 2 Mud Shots. Then it's on to Brawly's ace, the Mini Sumo, after I level up and heal a little bit. Fabulous goes for Mud Shot as Makuhita uses a Bulk Up. I try Water Gun, but that really doesn't do all that much. I swap back to Mud Shot after he heals, and take it out with a crit. That fight could have been doable without a sacrifice, but I didn't think it was likely, and there was no way I'm going to risk a reset after everything that happened at the beginning. This is normally the point in the video where I will shamelessly ask you to subscribe to my channel, Nuzlocke Joe, but today I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to ask you who your favorite shiny is. For me, it's gotta be the Black Charizard, and I never got one. That still bugs me. Before getting back on the boat, it's time to put Beautiful into the dead box. She did exactly what I wanted from her, and I couldn't have asked for more, so it's time to rest. In Slateport, I find a line of people just waiting, so naturally, I jump in line and wait too. After exploring the city a bit, the line has gone away, so I can get in, and it's a boring museum. Why were so many people waiting for that? One guy, apparently, didn't have any money, but still managed to get in. How did he get past the entrance? Flirting? Espionage? Murder? I need the deets, man, you can't leave me hanging like this. After defeating some Aqua Grunts, I meet a modern day pirate named Archie, because of course they named him that. His goal is to expand the oceans, which compared to Maxie's plan, would certainly cause more human deaths. So I guess he's more of a bad guy? In preparation for the rival fight here, Fantastic evolves and stays Fantastic. Granted, the Wishmer Shiny line doesn't look all that different from the normal line, but they are definitely pink. With my newly evolved Pokemon, I am more than ready to face May. And this was such an easy fight, it doesn't even deserve any battle music. Let's just have a calm, relaxing ambiance. Yeah, just like that. Basically, Fantastic destroys her whole team, easy peasy. I get to Mauville and find a guy with crazy hair who sings the weirdest song I've ever heard. Crazy hair is creepy. After trouncing Wally, just like I did to May, it's time for gym number 3. My plan here is really simple. Let Fabulous be Fabulous. The Magnemite hits me with a Sonic Boom before falling, as Fabulous levels up to heal a tiny bit. Next is a Voltorb, who falls to a Mud Shot after yet another Sonic Boom. Last is Magneton. What do you think he uses? Sonic Boom, of course. Still, Fabulous survives, and with Soft Sand, manages to knock out the Magneton. In Fall Arbor Town, I find Lynette rudely blocking the PC and trying to go all Sherlock Holmes on me. Obviously I wanted to use the PC, that's elementary, my dear. At this point, I begin another shiny hunt, and in less than an hour, I am the proud new owner of a beautiful, shiny Barfbat. Did I say beautiful? That comes later. I name him Spunky. Before long, Spunky evolves into a still gross Golbat, and then eventually, after a lot of walking, and maybe a hint of Stockholm Syndrome, I get the beautiful pink Crobat I've been looking for. With that, I head up to the volcano, where Maxie warns me that Archie wants to not cause an eruption. I fail to see the problem here, but okay, I'll stop his dastardly deeds. The pirate doesn't give me all that much trouble. Against his Sharpedo though, I do risk a crit here because I couldn't think of a way to avoid it. Thankfully, it all worked out. With the volcano saved from being made inactive, for some reason, I get to Flannery and her Slugmas, who Fabulous takes out with one hit each. Her Torkoal is a little bit bulkier, and Fabulous falls in love with the Fire Turtle. But that's only a temporary setback, as Fabulous very quickly kills the love of his life. Flannery tries to read some deep meaning into my victory, when in actuality, I'm just better than she is. It's simple. I head to the Fiery Path to find one more encounter, and it takes many hours, but eventually I do find a shiny silver Slugma, and I immediately run away, because I was just in the run away from everything mindset until I see something pink, and Slugma was not pink. That really sucks. Now, this was my viable encounter in this area, but I can't let that little turd beat me. So, I'm taking some liberties, and I keep looking for a shiny that I will not use in battle. I just need to prove to myself that I can do it. And this turned out to be a mistake, because after many more hours, I eventually do find a shiny second Slugma who I catch and name Hot. But that whole thing took like 15 in-game hours for a Pokemon I'm not even going to use, so yeah, it was probably a waste. At this point, there's really nothing to do aside from getting the 5th badge from my father. And to be honest, I am dreading this fight. His Slacking uses Yawn as fabulous mud shots and should now be faster. After using a Chesto Bear to wake up, this fight just becomes a dig stall, where I use dig every turn so that I'm underground when his Slacking attacks. It takes a long while and a lot of digs, but eventually it does work. Fabulous levels up and out comes Vigoroth. Mudshot should be a 3-hit KO, and after lowering his speed and taking a few hits, Vigoroth falls. This brings out the scariest Pokemon, his stronger Slacking. Fabulous doesn't have nearly enough dig PP to recreate the first Slacking death, assuming he didn't die first anyway, so I swapped to Spunky on a 4 times resisted Focus Punch, then confuse him and hit him with a single wing attack. I should have done this earlier, but now I bring out Fantastic to bait Focus Punch, which I can avoid by just hitting the big sloth every turn. After a few strengths, the guy goes down, and that fight wasn't as bad as I had feared. 5 badges down, only 3 more to go. Things are going pretty well. After getting Surf, Watson tries to get me to help him with a generator or something, but that has to wait. My badges are far more important. Across the pond, Steven asked me what kind of Pokemon I train and if I choose only a single type. There is no way he would understand the pointless restrictions I've imposed on myself, so I don't even respond. On my way to Fort Tree, I find my favorite character in the entire game, the Wingull Man. He's just awesome. What's not to like? And here, I do something that I generally avoid in these runs. Use a save state. Because, in order to get my next shiny Pokemon, I need to beat this Aqua Grunt, but I can't save before picking up Cast Form. So, I use a save state right here, and then just reload it to change up the Cast Form. Doing it this way, I get the encounters really quickly, and it doesn't take all that long to find a shiny. Now, I didn't give her a name, because it takes a lot longer, and I'll fix that a bit later. I have a pretty simple rival battle that I don't want to waste time on, get to Fort Tree, and almost immediately head to the gym. For this fight, I decide to give the unnamed Cast Form a chance to shine. Basically, I'm just going to throw her at the gym and see how long she survives. This is not a Pokemon I have much experience with, so we'll see how it goes. I start with Hail, which does cause me to lose my shiny pinkness, but that's okay. You can't really use Cast Form without weather manipulation. That's blasphemy. The Swellow falls to a single stab Ice Beam as I level up. This brings out the Skarmory, showing how much of an idiot I actually am. Because I knew that Hail Cast Form would get Ice Stab because it's Ice type. I apparently forgot, however, that also means I get the Ice type weakness to Steel. So, I don't quite kill with a Thunderbolt and take a ton from Steel Wing. But I do survive, and after Skarmory heals, take out the Steel Bird. So it could have gone a lot worse, I suppose. Pelipper comes out as the hail fades, making Cast Form beautiful once again. Obviously, this Water Bird goes down to a single Thunderbolt, no surprise there. This brings out her ace, Altaria. Without the stab, Ice Beam is not likely to kill. It's possible, but unlikely. So Cast Form somehow survives a Dragon Breath with 12 HP and gets a clutch critical hit, knocking out the Altaria. That was awesome. Like I said at the start of this fight, I completely expected Cast Form to die here, but since she didn't, I might as well use her on my team for a bit. On the way to Lily Cove, I beat the guy who can walk through walls, and Fabulous evolves into her beautiful final pink form. In Lily Cove, I give Cast Form the name Gifted, and also name the Lileep, that I can't find the footage for and I never use anyway, Alluring. It's time to fight May one last time. And even though it's a simple fight, I'll show it anyway, because it is the last one. The newly named Gifted takes out the Swellow in one Ice Beam, and then swaps to Fabulous to knock out the Numel with a Surf. This baits out Grovyle, who Spunky resists, and knocks out with a single wing attack. Her last Pokemon, Wailmer, does survive a few hits before falling. And for the last time, we have beaten May and she won't bother us anymore. Though she does claim that she caught a decent amount of Pokemon, even though she literally had 4 whole Pokemon on her team. I'm shiny hunting and even I have more than that. What are you doing, May? In the Lily Cove Pokemon Center, I find a guy who talks about Team Aqua stealing Pokemon, which is messed up, and ripping off meteorites? What does that even mean? Are they scamming meteorites for money or something? Sure, stealing Pokemon is sad, but won't anyone think of the poor meteors? I also find an innkeeper complaining that Team Aqua has scared away his patrons. It could be that, or maybe it's the fact that you have no beds. You ever think about that, man? I get to Mount Pyre, which, in my opinion, is the lamer version of the Pokemon Tower, and Gifted just absolutely wrecks everybody up here. Maybe I shouldn't have been so casual about trying to kill her. Archie does his Archie thing and steals an orb, heading to Slateport. I take the opportunity to check out the Aqua hideout, and I find these 2 grunts, who really need to communicate better with each other the info they're going to give out. They just don't talk like they used to, and it's sad. I eventually get inside and have the slowest chase scene ever. How did he not see me? That was close. In the Safari Zone, there are 2 possible encounters here, but both are pretty hard to find and to catch. I spend a little bit of time looking, but don't feel like wasting my time here. I have a pretty good team, and I'll get some more encounters very soon anyway, so if I need to, I'll return back here later. Speaking of which, I catch myself a shiny Wailmer, which also didn't get recorded, I don't know why, and then spend a really long time looking for a shiny Carvana. I do use another save state trick, because I absolutely hate fishing, but it still takes more than 3,000 encounters until I find the ugly duckling, and I name this girl Assertive. At this point, basically all of my Pokemon evolve, even Hot, who I will not be using, but still had to catch to retain my street cred. I make my way to Moss Deep to fight the 7th gym leaders. Fabulous has Mystic Water, and Assertive a Chesto Berry, so naturally, Fabulous is immediately put to sleep. Oh well. She wakes up pretty quickly, and between her Surf and Assertive's Crunch, this fight is still super easy. I get to Kyogre, but before I can catch it, Archie wants to fight one last time. I lead with Fantastic, who gets intimidated by Mightyena. So, I use Rock Smash, hoping for a defense drop, and get Swaggered instead, which more than offsets the Intimidate. Nice! 1 Strength takes out the Mightyena. Against the Crobat, Strength is a 2-hit KO here, even after the Super Potion. The Sharpedo is much more intimidating, so I go for a Hyper Beam just for fun, and miss, of course. Fantastic barely survives a critical slash, that was close, and wins the fight with a Hyper Beam that actually hits. Even after losing, Archie wakes up Kyogre and makes him angry, so it starts to rain a bit. In order to get to Sutopolis to stop the rain, I have to dive. But I have some questions here. How do I breathe underwater indefinitely? I mean, I'm just chilling under the sea while holding my breath? How does that happen? Also, how do normal people who haven't beaten 7 gym leaders get into this city without dive? This just doesn't make any sense. After getting through the extremely complicated maze that is the Cave of Origin, I didn't even need to use Flash, I'm just that good, I encounter Kyogre, who I tame with the blue orb. I repeat this process only a couple hundred times before finding the glamorous pink Kyogre. Just look at that beauty. I immediately catch it with a Master Ball, of course, and name it Glamorous. Unfortunately, since you typically can't use legendaries in challenge runs like this, Glamorous goes into the box, never to be seen again. But hey, I still got one. After saving the world, it's time to return to the mundane task of kicking some gym leader butt. So, we jump to Wallace, where I lead with Gifted, who after avoiding a sweet kiss, one-shots the Love Disc with Thunderbolt. Against the Wish Cache, I pivot to Spunky on an Earthquake and respond with a 4 times effective Giga Drain that still doesn't kill? Okay. Next turn, I get a crit, knocking out the fish. This brings out Celio, who threatens with Aurora Beam, so I pivot to a now Water-type Gifted to tank it and knock out the seal with a couple of Thunderbolts. When Seaking comes out, the rain stops, so I bring in Fabulous as the rain just starts again. I guess I didn't need to swap. Gifted returns to the scene, heals a confusion, and deals a decent amount with Thunderbolt. But now I'm in crit range, and I didn't realize how fast this fish actually was, Fat comes in to tank a few hits and fails to kill with a water pulse. This allows Wallace to heal as Fat uses 2 hyper beams for the knockout. Last is Milotic, who gets 2 free water pulses before Fat hits himself in confusion, surviving with only 12 HP. Obviously, he needs a break, so Assertive takes a turn, uses Screech, and then kills with a hyper beam. That fight was a bit rough, and certainly sloppy on my part. I know I could have made better choices there, so even though we do have 8 badges now, it feels a little bit underwhelming. But before heading to the Elite Four, there is one more encounter I want to get, and that is in Shoal Cave, there's a little round boy. Round girl, actually. I find her in about 300 encounters, so that's not that bad. And she is stupendous, especially after fully evolving. At the end of Victory Road, this Wally kid thinks he's better than me, so it's time to teach him one last lesson. Against his Altaria, I lead with Stupendous for obvious reasons, who surprisingly enough outspeeds and knocks out the dragon in one hit. That was nice. This brings out Roselia, who does survive an Aurora Beam, but just wastes time with Elite Seed and heals before falling next turn anyway. Against the Magneton, Fabulous gets confused and takes a really strong looking tri-attack that does almost nothing. And then Fabulous hits himself while underground. That was not so smart. I finally decide to swap to Gifted to cure the confusion and use Ice Beam for some reason, I don't know why, before bringing Fabulous back out, who finally kills Magneton with a dig. That could have all been avoided with a simple berry, so that was not well planned on my part. Delcatty survives a dig and puts me to sleep. Oh, come on. Assertive comes out, barely misses out on the kill with a crunch, and also falls asleep. I decide to leave her in, and after a few turns, she wakes up and takes out the cat. Last is Gardevoir, who falls to 2 more crunches. Now nothing stands between me and the Elite Four. And here is my final shiny team. All at the level cap, which for me is the strongest Pokemon of the next Elite Four member. That way, I'm not too overpowered for the early fights. We start against Mohawk Sydney and his Mightyena, whose Intimidate doesn't really matter to me. The pup falls to Ice Beams after hitting a relatively weak crunch, and I heal with a Shell Bell. This baits out the Cacturn, who goes down to a single hit. Sharpedo makes me hit myself in confusion and hits a crunch, so I need to swap. Fat comes in on a crunch that deals a ton of damage, but also deals a ton with Surf. Then it's time to swap again, this time to Assertive, who kills the less assertive Shark with a return. The Shiftry just uses Double Team, thankfully, but dies to 2 returns. Last is the Absol, who Fabulous comes out with a Surf as he starts using Swords Dance, which is not great. After 2 Swords Dance, Sydney uses a full restore, and luckily, I don't get crit, knocking out the Absol with 1 last Surf. That Swords Dance was pretty concerning. Against Phoebe, I start with Fantastic, who takes out the Dusclops in 2 Shadow Balls, as it just sets up Future Sight. Against the Bayonet, Assertive avoids the Future Sight, of course, and gets a Black Glasses boosted 1-hit KO. The Sableye survives, but does very little to me before dying. The second Bayonet, unsurprisingly, suffers the same fate as the first. Last is the second Dusclops, who does survive a crunch and would probably certainly die to a second even after the Citrus Berry, but I guess I got spooked here and swapped to Fabulous to try to finish off the Ghost with a couple of Surfs, even after I get confused and she heals. And heals again. At which point I have run out of Surf PP, so I use Dig instead and finally win after 2 last hits. On to Glacia. It takes a bit because she heals, but Fabulous takes out the first Glalie in just a few hits, bringing out the first Celio, who survives an Earthquake, but just uses Hail. The second Celio also survives, which is fine, and then falls in love with Fabulous, because who wouldn't? Now it's time to unveil my stupid strategy just for fun. Fat comes out, avoids a Blizzard, and starts a rollout. He also falls in love with Celio, but that doesn't stop him from squashing her with his ginormous body. Against the second Glalie, rollout misses, so I need to start again. After a few turns, with Hail starting again, and taking me down to less than half, Fat squashes this Pokemon too on the 3rd rollout. This brings out the Walrein, who Fat actually manages to outspeed and knock out with the 4th rollout. Not gonna lie, I didn't expect that to actually work. I had more reliable backup strats in case I needed them, but I really wanted to see if this huge whale just rolling around squashing her Pokemon would work. And it's a pretty good image. Now we're on to Old Man Drake and his dragons. But this fight is ridiculously easy. Stupendous either outspeeds and one-shots his Pokemon, or just tanks whatever they can throw at her and still one-shots. I never realized how easy Drake could be if you just use a single wall ring. Thankfully, this isn't the last fight, because that would be way underwhelming. So now, it's on to a beauty contest! I couldn't do a pink shiny run without at least trying this, now could I? As competitors, we've got Ace with his not so beautiful Slakoth, a Zubat, a Wingull, and a shiny pink Kyogre. How glamorous. And how do you think Ace and his stupid Slakoth feel right about now? Naturally, Glamorous completely nukes the normal rank contest, what do you expect? But we don't stop there. Glamorous shines in the super rank, hogs the attention in hyper rank, and even marches to victory in the master rank. Not just once, but 3 separate times, until we are finally recognized as the gods we are, and get this wonderful painting to commemorate our victory. And let's just put that glamorous painting over here for the rest of the game. We already know how many badges we have, right? Before going back to the important stuff, I want to point out that there was this creep at the cute contest judging the girls instead of the Pokemon. That's messed up. But then I found this awesome guy who straight up calls all of these trainers stupid. Alright, more than offsets the creep. Okay, with that out of the way, now it's really on to the champion, Steven. Let's see how the last fight goes. Gifted, with a Charcoal, starts off by setting up a sunny day, as Skarmory uses spikes, and then falls to a flamethrower next turn. This brings out Metagross, who should fall in one hit, and he does. Nice. Here, anticipating an earthquake, I make it rain, as Claydol just uses Light Screen. Okay. I don't know why I didn't teach Gifted Water Pulse, but I didn't, so I use Ice Beam instead. After taking a ton from a crit, I can't really afford to swap, so I use one more Ice Beam, and Gifted still survives. Okay, Gifted has earned a break, so out comes Fabulous, who finishes off the Claydol with a Surf. Aggron comes out next, and also falls to a Surf. Cradily is certainly Steven's scariest Pokemon right now. I hit an Earthquake, and then get confused. Expecting a Giga Drain, I swap into Fantastic, who does tank a Giga Drain, and should kill with a Brick Break. Or not. And then I get poisoned. Of course. He then heals, and after 2 more broken bricks, still survives with like no HP left. Come on. He heals yet again, and after Poison and Shell Bell, Fantastic is left with only 1 HP. I don't really have any safe swaps here, so I decide to just go for one last Brick Break, and this one actually kills. Which is great and all, but couldn't that have happened like 4 Brick Breaks ago? Even though she did fantastic, the poison damage was just too much, and she dies as Armaldo comes out. Her sacrifice means that Fat can come out for free and drown Armaldo with a single Surf. With that, we are the new champions, and have beaten my first shiny hardcore Nuzlocke. The matches themselves weren't too bad. After all, there are a surprising number of pretty good pink shinies, and a few I didn't even get, like Heracross and Wobbuffet. No, the real issue here was how long everything took. And so now, it's time for the moment of truth. How many in-game hours did this run take? All in all, this run took 60 in-game hours. To be honest, I thought it was going to take quite a bit longer, but then I realized that most of my encounters, like Mudkip, Kyogre, Castform, Lileep, Wailmer, Carvanha, were all found using soft resets or save states, meaning they didn't take up any in-game time. But rest assured, it still took me a good long while to find a few of them. If I do another shiny run like this in the future, I'll try to choose one with less static encounters. That way you have a better idea of how long it actually took. Because, trust me, it took a long time. Anyway, I hope you liked this video, and next time, I'll see you in Unova Part 2.